We've talked about little things where like I had people like show up late to interviews and I'm like, not a good look.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's as the employer, you just have a lot of options, right? You have a like funnel of like sometimes hundreds of people, and so these little things that are little it's easy to look at them as effective screening mechanisms for like, okay, cool, on to the next one, on to the person who was able to show up on time. Welcome to We're Not Recording, candid conversations brought to you by Athena. Athena is the company that pays Melanie and my salary, so we would be remiss not to shout them out, though we promise this isn't another boring business podcast. Athena makes compliance training people actually like and has a bunch of other required tools your company probably needs. Everything from employee hotlines, HR case management tools, phishing simulator, and more. If you don't like your company's mandatory training, tell your HR or legal teams to check Athena out. Hi, today Melanie and I have a conversation about the silliest possible work drama there is, LinkedIn drama. We unpack a post that drew so much hate on the internet that it was taken down. And this ends up segueing into a conversation that I think was quite interesting about brand building, what it's like to post on LinkedIn and build your own content, and in particular some pitfalls that Melanie and I find as women posting our thoughts into the open internet. And we end with an important point, which is why Melanie should stop saying, "Can I ask a question?" Enjoy.
I think that you were like LinkedIn spiraling or something. I don't know what we call it when you're like is it doom spiraling? You were just like on LinkedIn all the things.
I'm happy to justify my actions. So I was like not paying attention, and I don't love this about myself, but I will like pop open LinkedIn at random times because I don't have X anymore because I just like, it's too much. I like Instagram, but that has a different vibe. Like LinkedIn to me has a bit of a, I don't know, like more of a love-hate relationship or something. Whereas Instagram, she's like, this is entertaining. And I saw like something surface that was this woman who like, I don't remember her name and I wouldn't say it because it's not trying to like bring hate on her, but I think posted something that like was maybe a little ill-advised, and then the comments were unhinged. And I love like, what's that Reddit thread? Like the people of LinkedIn, but it's something else. It's like LinkedIn.
Of Walmart or something?
No, it's kind of like that, but LinkedIn. Like, it's like cringy LinkedIn moments. It has this clever title that I can't think of. Like, I love... LinkedIn Lunatics is, I think, the name.
And it's just Googling like... that later.
Yeah, and if you ever see yourself on there, don't take it personally. But it'll just be like things that are trending on LinkedIn, but that are like kind of cringe. So it'll be like a VC who's just like, I'm so proud of myself for making $1 million, you know, kind of stuff. She, I think, got it on there. But do you want to say what the post was?
I screenshotted it because I knew it was going to be taken down. I knew
you were into the drama too. Let's not pretend this is just.
Oh yeah. No. I went through and I read all the comments before it got taken down, and then I couldn't finish reading the comments. I was so bummed. So you send me this post and you don't I don't think you sent me additional context, but you were like, I think you just sent it and you said the comments are wild. And then I responded in a complete and like just had no nuance. I said, I'm sorry, like, I wish I had a more nuanced take, but I just think this is dumb. And then you said, do you remember what you said?
I think I said, like, mostly I agree, but if you were applying for, like, an EA job or something, I would consider a typo on a resume, like, a pretty red flag. Yeah, because I think, and I think to unpack it, I think she got so much hate to include people then finding, like, typos in her LinkedIn. Yeah. And I think that it's just an unfortunate thing, but if you're trying to be like brash and have a lot of bravado on LinkedIn as a woman, this is just like a magnet for the trolls. I don't make the rules, but just observe them. So I feel like that was like one dynamic that was happening. Yeah. Two is I think it was a lot of people maybe like rightly who are have been on the job market and are feeling really frustrated. And so to kind of see like a flippant, like I'm in charge and you're not, and like na boo boo. But yeah, the only like useful nugget I could take out of this like tempest in a teacup, because it's like LinkedIn drama is the least dramatic drama there is that I do think like we've talked about little things where like I had people like show up late to interviews and I'm like, not a good look.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's as the employer, you just have a lot of options, right? You have a like funnel of like sometimes hundreds of people, and so these little things that are little it's easy to look at them as effective screening mechanisms for like, okay, cool, on to the next one, on to the person who was able to show up on time. And I think that that's like largely not a good way to make hiring decisions, because there can be extenuating circumstances and or like, what are you actually hiring for? But I think for roles like if I'm hiring for a salesperson and they're consistently like not remembering details about me, I'm like, that feels like very relevant to your job. And in this case, if I was hiring for an EA and there was a typo laden, or honestly even one, and I was able to catch it because I am so bad at typos that I can't catch them, I would consider it a beige to red flag.
So my very boring take is that I largely agree with you. I think it's role specific. In particular, I even think like very junior roles, to be honest. This is your first sort of foray into the workplace. I don't have much else to base your work skills and experience on. So whatever I'm seeing in your application, like this weighs far more heavily than someone who's got maybe 6 years of experience, and I'm, weighing that more heavily than a single typo. So I super agree with that. I think what stood out to me and like what really caught my attention with that post is that, I think about intention and impact, right? And I sort of am trying, I think this person, went back afterwards and was saying, hey, my intent was to get people's attention. I'm just trying to help. I don't think people understand that, like, you really should pay attention to your resume. Obviously, there are exceptions, blah, blah. So, of course, she followed with a more nuanced take, so on and so forth afterwards. But I think that when people just see that, there's so little nuance that in the absence of additional context, all the things that you said can happen. People take it personally, you're struggling with work. And for me, what it made me think about actually, weirdly enough, and I didn't mention this to you because I figured let's talk about it live, is our culture at Athena. Because I think we have a super rigorous performance culture, which we talk about a lot. We've got super tough performance standards, but we don't talk about it in a way that's like, can you cut it? Or you put it part of the cool kids club? Like either you can hack it or you can't. I'm envisioning
a cut to like Bring It On, the cheer movie of my childhood, like where it's like Melanie doing the dance and then being like, can you cut it? Like,
oh, that would be amazing. Listen,
horrible,
at 4'10", I think my mom messed up not putting me into gymnastics. I have the right body type for gymnastics. Am I
well,
right?
Body type and also like mental stamina. Like,
Melanie, we've talked
is it too
about
late?
This.
Is it too late? It's never too late to try something new.
I think that if you were looking at the surface, you probably wouldn't think that we're as sort of cutthroat is not the right word, but we are like truly
exacting.
Yeah, exacting. And I think that like if we sold it in that way without the nuance, I think we would, a lot of the people that have succeeded so well at Athena and that, are really just like phenomenal performers would not have wanted to come to Athena, even though at the end of the day, they would have performed at that level that we want. But we always frame it differently, which is, in my opinion, the way we frame it is, hey, we want to hire people who are just really passionate about what they do and are passionate about doing the best possible and are just like always wanting to push it to the next thing. And we talk about it more as like something you're excited about versus like either you're good enough or you're not. And if you're not, we're going to cut you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think about it when I see posts like this, like, okay, you got the attention. You now have made a name for yourself that this is the type of employer you are, or this is the type of recruiter you are. But like, did you get the desired impact? Because I'm going to guess the people you're looking for were also turned off by that messaging. So I don't know.
I think you're right. And I have like two random tangents that I think are related. We'll find out. One is your point on junior versus senior employees is actually a really interesting one, like how typo impacts that. So I was just thinking, we have this amazing fractional CFO who I think the world of, Jim, and he will send emails that occasionally my co-founder has asked, do you think this is phishing? Like, it's just an unhinged, like, subject line that's like, whatever, like, monthly cash collection, blah, 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 and then, like, no body. And I think I would never, for a CFO, be concerned with that kind of behavior because the substance, like, he's just, like, so proven his substance that you're kind of like, the style can be, like, absurd, and it's fine. I hope Jim is listening. He did listen to our first podcast, which that was very sweet. So that's just like one random aside is that like you can, I think sometimes as a junior employee, you can see that and forget that like you don't have that like corpus of work to stand on. Okay, the other thing, I do not know if you will like the direction this is going. I think if you, for example, I think your LinkedIn vibe and for your public presence is very like open, thoughtful, nice. You are the opposite of a mean girl, right? You're like presenting like, here's a take or something, but it's never like, here's how I'm an expert and you must listen to me. Like, I don't ever get that tone.
No.
I think if you did take that tone, you might get a little bit of the same heat because I think there's a bit of a gender component, a bit of a like mean girl, people don't want to hear it. And then I'm going to go so far as to say, I think there would even be a bit of a like, I think that you come across as very nice, very approachable, very relatable. But like, you went to Harvard. You're like a fancy pants. Yeah, like, and even that reaction there. And I think there's like a parallel Melanie who's just like, all these HR folks can't cut it. And here's how I, have like broken through the noise to do it. That like, nobody would really, very few people would want to follow, but like, I don't know. I don't know if that resonates at all, but that's like something I was thinking.
It does resonate. I'll share like a very brief anecdote, which is I was on a prep call for a webinar where we're partnering with a couple of people. I won't mention who for the purposes of this call or for this conversation. And I think I just let my guard down because it was like a small group of other HR people, and it was back-to-back meetings. I wasn't like thinking with my usual filter on, and my usual filter is like, come with empathy, come with nuance, say the tough thing, but balance it out so that the tough thing lands a little bit better. Because I do think I say quite tough things, but because of the way I couch it, people I think maybe don't realize quite how tough
100%.
it is.
Yeah.
And so I just said it in an unfiltered way, and I saw like the facial responses, and there were some people. What did you
say?
I think so. I'm like hesitant even to say it here. I'll say it here. In worst case scenario, we edit it.
Yeah,
you know.
It's okay. We're not recording. There's nothing to edit.
We're not recording. That is the beauty of this entire series. I was talking about performance metrics, and I was talking about how, quite frankly, if you're somewhat meeting, you're not meeting, and at that point, like either I'm going to manage you out or I'm going to manage you up. Like you have to level up or you have to leave. And I just
posted just that on LinkedIn. I think you would have a very similar experience. Which I think is kind of silly in some ways because like I think that that's another component of it. Like I don't know, a while ago I feel like this has died because there were larger things from the news now, but there's a lot of talk about founder takedowns of like all women companies. So like oh gosh, what was the suitcase company? Away and Glossier and I don't know, a couple of them.
I remember you flagging a couple things to me.
Yeah, like it was kind of early in Athena's history. It was like sort of the end of the girl boss era, and it was a lot of like exposed. This woman actually is horrible, and she's mean to puppies. And like I think a lot of that was sort of born from a similar thing of like people, founder CEOs saying the exact same thing any other CEO would say, which is like, yeah, of course we're looking for the best talent. Of course we're letting go underperformers. Like, duh, like what do you think we're doing? But like said from certain characteristics or said in a certain way or tone or with long hair, like it hits different, you know?
Okay, so I have a question for you though, because I actually think about this quite a bit. I remember.
Should I cut my hair? I'm cutting it Friday.
I think just like shave it all off. I once did a buzz cut, and it turns out I don't have the right face shape for it, and also it's not lower maintenance. So
a buzz cut.
I did.
Pictures after, please.
I will send. And apparently I have a hairy neck, which like made the maintenance even harder because you have to like shave
we all have a hairy neck because like that's where the hair is.
But you cannot tell.
Can't see it. Okay.
I know. Anywho, my question to you, because I've thought about this a lot, especially in the whole like girl boss era, and like people often do push me to be like,
R.I.P. Right, man. Now it's like we don't even have women bosses. I feel like that is a different.
That's his own. Yeah. That's his own thing. But people will say, Melanie, why do you keep saying I think? Like just cut I think and say the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And my question to all of these people, it's a genuine one. I'm still thinking on it. Is just because guys can get away with it, does that mean that that is the right way and that we should be doing it? Or could they do with a little of meeting us down the middle? You know, like, are they maybe a little too abrasive in some of their communications? And really the answer isn't we should just all be the same and all the same level of aggressive. We should, I don't know that I am convinced that the guy way is the right way.
Totally. I think my father-in-law was a general. Yes. So that's like an experience. Yeah. And so he talks a lot about leadership, and he talks a lot about how leadership must be very tailored, both I think he talks a lot about it, how it needs to be tailored to the people you're leading, right? So like you might, if you're like a platoon, a company commander, you might have several platoon leaders, and maybe you have one who needs to be reined in, because you know he's super confident and whatever, and you're like actually your biggest risk is that he just like goes rogue. But then you have one who's like not as confident and maybe needs to be like encouraged or something, you know, and one that's forgetful or whatever. Like, you know, you have 5 people, you have 5 different people, and they often need to be like led in a slightly different way. And so that means that even though you are the same leader, you're going to apply like different tactics to each of them, which I think is correct. I think good leadership, like, is not one size fits all. I think there's like a corollary, which is I think leadership also doesn't work if you're adopting a style that feels deeply like inauthentic to who you are. So if you are like an I think kind of person versus a I know beyond shadow of a doubt, I think that's reasonable. On the other hand, I have been thinking a lot about how I've like internalized some limitations, styles of a speech or whatever that I'm not sure they serve me. I did the interview for Hunter in this podcast, and he talked about the difference between steak and sizzle. Steak being like the real meat, so like can you perform in the job, and then sizzle, you know, is like the pizzazz, the like how do you come across in a. You look skeptical, so tell me if you disagree with this distinction.
I'm processing.
Oh, okay. Well, you also can tell me if you disagree. Yep. But I saw something there. So for a founder, it might be the stake is just like, are you really good? Do you know your space really well? Are you really good at execution? After you leave that pitch meeting and you get that $20 million, do you know how to like deploy that $20 million? The sizzle might be like, are you going to look great on a 15-second Bloomberg clip? And are you going to like wow the room when you walk in and like whatever? And Hunter's point, which I agree with, is that like, the world might not be fair, but it is the world. And like both are important. Like, so if you are just all sizzle, then you're going to essentially flame out. You're not going to have any there. And eventually that's going to be exposed, a la apple cider vinegar. Am I right? But if you're all steak, you're probably not going to, if you're all steak, 1, a vegan's not going to like you. 2, you're probably not going to even get in the room in the first place. Right. Cause it's like, you got to have a little like, salesmanship in most roles. I think there are some where it's like, okay, I don't know, if you're just like the specialized engineer and like whatever, you know, it can just be all steak and doesn't matter, fine. I don't know if this resonates, but that's what I was thinking about.
No, it super resonates. I think about this even a lot in, well, I mean, I don't, you know this, but like I do a lot of public facing things now, whether it's like webinar or like hosting a dinner. And I think a lot about like the persona that I put out there publicly because like, I do think if I spoke in a monotone or if I was less smiley, like it just wouldn't be received as well. And even though the message is the same, it wouldn't land. I was thinking about this in particular because we did a roundtable recently and I was just feeling off that day. And so like I did all the right things in terms of the content. But to be honest, I didn't come in like, hi, everyone. I just sort of came in as sort of
you didn't
like
bring the sizzle.
I didn't bring the sizzle. I just was like, hi all, like very excited to chat with you all. We're going to be covering a couple of things. And like, even just that, like you can tell that like it's a little bit, you know, slower in speech, all the things.
Sometimes you're a little sleepy. Sometimes you got tummy ache.
Sometimes I have tummy ache. And it totally changed the entire like vibe. And I had to work double to try and get it back to what it normally is. Yeah. So yeah, I think the sizzle is there. I don't know, it's an interesting question, what serves you, what doesn't, what's conditioned through social, you know, constructs and all that. I don't know that this conversation will ever end, but I do think something you always flag that I think is worth calling attention to is I think you and I think about this a lot as women. I don't know how much the other sex is thinking about this, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
I will say, like, I have found myself as I age, you know, so I'm like 6 years-ish into running this company, and that's when I've been more public, because before that my roles were like more internal company stuff, and then in the Army where there was like no brand building. And I think I've definitely gotten less critical and concerned and just a little more like, I don't know, here's kind of what I have to say. And I'm like doing a little like what you said about like running a filter or a bit of a script of like, make sure you're this, but not too this. And I think I'm a little more now like, okay, you know, I'm not sure if like all of that serves me, and it's just a little exhausting and I don't have all of it. But I've in no way abandoned it. And I mean, actually complete, like in some ways the opposite. I talked to Layla for one of these conversations. And she gave me advice to basically stop looking like a slob at work, you know? And I'm like, there's just something to that. The steak, the sizzle. Like, so I'm like, okay, now I use Dazzle Dry. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a nail polish brand that you can do yourself.
Love.
And like, I try to just generally have my life, what would you call it? My face, I think is the word I'm looking for, a little bit more like together. I've been sitting on feedback for you, which is a great place to
give me the feedback.
Sometimes I think you ask, can I ask a question? And then you ask the question. And it's like, yeah, Melanie, you can ask a question. It's both more efficient just to ask your question. And like, yeah, you're the chief people officer here. You get to ask a question.
You're
so
right.
Maybe that's a good tactical thing. Like, you don't have to ask, can I ask a question? I imagine it's more of a tick. You're not like expecting someone to say, no, you cannot ask a question.
No, but I am like, there is a part of me that's sort of like, well, it might not be welcome at this point in time, right? Like we're not discussing that, or like you're derailing the conversation, or whatever or like your input's just not needed right now.
But I think to take someone who I have great respect for, Matt, our VP of engineering, he will just go with this question. And then occasionally I'll have to say, hey, actually, I think this is like, let's take this part offline. So you could still have the expectation that if you were going on a tangent, if this is not what the business needs right now, someone's going to have enough respect for you to say, not right now. But that you could lead with confidence and then just be told otherwise.
I think it's a fair point. It's worth leaning into, if nothing else, as an experiment. You know, take the next week or two and just freaking lean in.
You're going to ask that question. Or you're going to say that statement.
Yeah. The worst case scenario is you'll have to rein me in. And I'll be like, okay, I'm at the other extreme now. Great. Progress was made.
I think so. I think that's a good little tactical thing you can work on. You can update us in 2 weeks. And Melanie, as always, this was a delightful chat.
Lovely. And I'm so glad our little friend here could say hello for the end of it.
I've been waiting my whole life to say this. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us on LinkedIn, because that's the only social media platform where we hang out.